Hi everyone, my name's Jade. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be talking about my 1 week post gastric sleeve surgery experience. So I had my surgery on Wednesday the 13th of September and yeah, I'm now 1 week post-op. I was feeling very nervous. I've done a lot of research, but I suppose on the day when you're put into that spot, you just don't really realise how you feel. And I thought that I was going to be one of the last people going in for the day, as that's what they told me at my pre-op. So anyway, first when I got there, I had to see the nurse. She put the lovely compression stockings on, and I'll insert a picture. And then I basically had to go through another little questionnaire. It was kind of like the hospital book thing, so they ticked off a few things, and I was told to sit in the waiting room and wait for a doctor to come through and someone will go through stuff with me, but they said that there's no order of how long things are going to be, so I'm just going to have to sit and wait. So I'm sitting in the waiting room, and within about 10 minutes a nurse was calling me up, and she basically asked me to get into my gown, and it all happened so fast. I didn't even have time to think, I didn't have time to be nervous. I got into my gown, she went through a few more questions of me. I had to take like my earrings and stuff out, and then she was walking me up to theatre, and I was like, oh, I thought I was going to be one of the last. I'm a bit shocked. And she was like, no, because you've got a latex allergy, you're one of the first. We need to eliminate the risk of having an allergic reaction as much as possible. So I didn't have time to be nervous because it was happening so fast. Next minute, I'm up in the theatre floor, and so next minute, I'm on the theatre floor and the anaesthetist comes. He asked me if I remember him, which I did. And then he gave me 2 anti-sickness tablets, which I had to put like right up in here, and I had to just let them melt. Then my surgeon come through, and he basically just made sure that I was still okay to go ahead, double check the consent forms, asked me if I have any questions. I said no. The anaesthetist then come and got me again and walked me into the theatre room. So I think to avoid having to lift me, they just asked me to get up on the bed in the theatre so that they could, anaesthetise me and go from there. So when I walked into the theatre, everyone was really friendly. There was about 5 nurses there, and it was quite overwhelming, like the big light above you and just seeing everything being set up. But yeah, so I had to put this hat on, had to lay down on the bed, and then there was like this, I don't know how to describe it. It was like a blow up, not mattress, but something that was under me to keep me warm. And then I was covered up. The anaesthetist put a cannula in my hand, which luckily hasn't bruised on this hand. And then we were just talking generally, and I remember I think he thought I was bonkers because I was convinced that he would think I was asleep and I wasn't. So then he put this thing across my head and told me that that was going to monitor my brain activity, so I shouldn't worry, and have I decided of what I'm going to dream of? And I was like, no, I haven't yet. And then next minute he said, don't worry if you start to feel sleepy. And I remember thinking, oh, I am sleepy, and I said that, I am sleepy. The nurse is coming over with this mask to put over my face, and then he's like, that's because I've drugged you already. And that is the last thing I remember. I was then knocked out. I was generally asleep. I don't remember it. I don't remember being in recovery. I don't remember being moved to the ward. That is all a blur to me. I don't remember it. I just remember my boyfriend trying to wake me up on the ward when he come, and anaesthetic hit me hard. I was knocked out for quite a while. I couldn't really stay awake. My poor mum and my boyfriend were just, standing there watching me because I couldn't pretty much make a conversation. I wasn't in any pain after the operation. In the hospital bed that I was in, I had a drip. So that had obviously the water fluids. Also on the drip was painkillers. And that did bruise my hand. I don't know if you can still see. I've got quite a lot of bruising on my hand. It has gone down quite a bit now. Obviously, it's been a week. But yeah, I had these things wrapped around my legs in the hospital over my compression stockings, which simulated it was almost like my calves were being massaged. And I suppose that's just to stimulate blood flow to make sure that blood clots don't happen after the operation. I was allowed clear fluids at this time, water, but I just didn't feel like it at all. I didn't want anything. And the nurses were very good. I was being woken up every hour. My blood pressure was being checked every hour. Sorry, my phone. My blood pressure was being checked every hour. I remember this was about 1 a.m. at this point as well, because I had to stay overnight. The nurse just woke me up and injected me right in my tummy with no warning. It was quite painful, but that was to stop blood clot as well. So yeah, it wasn't a very good sleep, but I was quite tired, but being woken up every hour, and I know they're doing their job and I can't fault them. Luton and Dunstable Hospital done an amazing job, and the care was there, other than making me go to the toilet when I didn't feel up to it on my own. But yeah, overall, when I was discharged the next day, I got discharged quite late. I think that was because, first of all, I was feeling fine, but as soon as the IV painkiller wore off and this pain just set in, all of a sudden, at one point I was walking around the hospital, I was even helping someone else who had had the surgery, giving her a drink, and then next minute the pain just hit me. And I just remember curling up on the bed on my side, and my mum come in and just being like, Jade, you need to get up. We need to, sort you out. And I was just like, I can't. And I just felt so sick. And I did actually throw up in the hospital. And when I threw up, there was quite a lot of blood in my sick. So I was quite worried about that. I showed one of the nurses and she said she was going to show the doctor. However, they didn't seem too bothered or concerned, but I was made to stay in my bed rather than going to the discharge ward place. Discharge lounge, I think they called it. I had to just basically stay in my hospital bed for another hour or so. My mum's trying to push fluids on me and I'm just not really thirsty. It's really hard to get the fluids in. When I was in the discharge lounge, I was there for about 3.5 hours, and at this point I'd had enough. I was fed up and I wanted to go home. The journey home wasn't too bad in the car. It wasn't painful, other than maybe going through a few speed bumps. But I would recommend either wearing your dressing gown in the car so that you've got this padding around you, so that if the seatbelt does touch your incisions, you've got something there. Or I would advise taking a cushion or a pillow, something to put under the seatbelt. So on the Friday, which would have been day 3, I was feeling a little bit better. I was tolerating a bit more liquid, but not half as much as what I should have. You're meant to drink Slim Fast shakes or something like that, some meal replacement which is high in protein, got quite a lot of minerals and vitamins in. And I could only manage 3 sips and I was full. I was meant to take this dissolvable paracetamol as well. 2 sips, full up, couldn't take it, couldn't take my pain medication. But I wasn't that bothered then, I wasn't in too much discomfort. On the Saturday, day 4, I was feeling quite depressed, to be honest. I cried a lot of the morning because I was thirsty, I felt really sick. I didn't know whether I was hungry, I didn't know whether I was sick, I didn't know whether I was full up. And it's just hard, like putting your body through all of this, it's quite a big thing. And I wasn't in pain, but I just felt really down and I felt really low because I felt so sick. And I remember ringing my mum and I was just like, why on earth have I done this? Why have I had this surgery? It's not going to help me. I don't feel very well. And I was just very, very negative that morning. Saturday afternoon, things got a little bit better. I started, instead of trying to drink the paracetamol, I started taking the codeine painkillers that they gave me, and that made me feel a little bit better. I could keep water down a little bit more, and I just started to feel a bit happier. Day 5 is Sunday, and I woke up in quite a bit of pain, more from the inside of my stomach. It felt like bruising inside. Also, I'm not very good at laying on my back, so where my incisions are, I was leaning on them all night, so they started to get a little bit bruised and a little bit sore. But as soon as I took the codeine painkiller, I was absolutely fine. I managed to keep down a lot more fluids on the Sunday. I actually started introducing a soup as well, so I just had a tin soup of Heinz tomato soup. I think it was the carrot and coriander. I watered it down a bit as I was a bit worried about heartburn, but luckily I've not had heartburn since. It went down okay. I managed 4 teaspoons of the soup and I was full up, but I managed it and I was quite happy with that. And yeah, I just felt a lot more happy on the Sunday. On Monday, which would be day 6, I just felt as if kind of all of the trouble that I had from the surgery, the pain that I had, which was minimal. I just want to say the pain was minimal, but the pain that I did have has all now gone. I'd stopped taking my painkillers. I was actually starting to feel a little bit more hungry again. And then now on Monday I was managing half a slim fast, but it did take me about 3 hours to drink that half a slim fast. But I just felt a lot happier. I managed half a litre of water that day, and I managed to finish a whole cup of tea, although the tea took me half an hour to drink, and by the time I'd finished it, it was freezing cold. But it was worth it, and I felt really happy with myself when I started ringing everyone up like, oh, you'll never guess what, I've drunk a whole cup of tea. And I don't think anyone else realised what a big step that was for me and how happy I was that I'd come that far to actually drink a whole cup of tea. Because when I was drinking like 3 sips of water and that was filling me up, I was like, oh no, liquid should not fill you up like that. But it passes. I think it was just the swelling in my stomach, and once all of that had gone down, I was able to tolerate a lot better liquids intake, which is good. From Tuesday, which was day 6, to Wednesday, which is day 7, I was having a slim fast over a whole morning. So from say 8 o'clock up until 11. I would then have some water in between that as well. I've been having some soup. So I serve out half a tin of soup, and then I split that over lunch and dinner. I don't finish it all the time. I did finish half the tin of soup at one point, and it actually just made me feel really ill. I think the thing that you need to be careful of is you don't realise how full up you're getting. So then what would happen is I would just be eating the soup like not a fast pace, like slower than I normally would, but I was still eating quite fast, and then it would end up just sitting and rather than going down into my stomach, I could feel it just sitting here, and it was almost as if I need to be sick. And I was sick once. I ate a bit too much custard. That made me throw up because I was just too full. So my advice in the first stage, or the first week of your phase 2 diet, which is liquids, is just to take it slow. Don't worry so much about, in the first couple of days, about how much water you're getting. You really need to take it at your own pace. Of course, it is important to stay hydrated, but it's also important to make sure you manage your medication. It's also important that you get in some form of calories, so buy the meal replacement shake or some form of milk, or whatever your dietitian or surgeon recommends. I think I was being a bit too hard on myself to begin with, and now reflecting back on the week, I think I've actually done really well. I had very minimal pain. I was off my painkillers pretty quick. I don't need to take my anti-sickness tablets anymore. I just need to learn to take it slow. And it is like being a baby and just learning to eat and drink at a new pace again. I'm still on liquids for another week, so I'm just going to be following the same routine. I'm going to be having a slim fast for breakfast. I'm going to be having a soup for lunch, and I should be having another slim fast in between lunch and dinner, or at least half of one, but I just can't fit it in at the moment. So that's what I'm working on through my second week, as I'm actually on day 10 now while I'm filming this. So yeah, it's just really about taking it slow and building it up. And I think, don't fret this early on about how much you can manage. I think it's just learning the speed that you can eat, making sure that you realise when you're full, and making sure that you take all your medication. And I think for me, because I haven't felt much pain and I have recovered pretty quickly, like I was up on my feet, and I felt like I needed to do stuff, I think I'm forgetting that I have had quite a big surgery done. My calorie levels are nothing compared to what they were, and I just need to take it a bit slow. Normally with this operation you get signed off of work for 2 weeks. I didn't actually pick up my sick note, so I've decided to go back to work on Monday, which would be 11 days after the operation. I might not go back full-time hours, but I just want to get back into a routine. I'm starting to just become a bit of a slob, and that's not me. I'm starting to wake up at about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to bed at sometimes like 1:30, 2. I can't sleep, so I just really need to get myself back into a routine. So yeah, I think for me now it's just focusing on my recovery, and I can't wait until the 14-day mark where I can start on pureed food. I never thought pureeing mash and pureeing fish and possibly pureeing chicken would be the highlight of my life, but here I am. But all I want to say to everyone who is about to go through this surgery is, it is life-changing, and I think you need to be aware that your eating habits have to change, your behaviour has to change, and for me, I was 100% ready to make that change, because although my stomach's now smaller, my brain is still the same size, and my brain still craves, takeaway food, and I have to sit and watch my boyfriend eat all this lovely food that I want to eat, but I know for my sake that I can't, and I've had this operation to lose weight, and I feel like this is my one chance, and I don't want to be back in the same position, say in 10 years' time. Although I felt really, really depressed on that one day, that has gone. And I think it's normal to feel depressed. It's a huge life-changing surgery, and just the fact of knowing that I can't do the things that I used to do, it was making me a bit sad. I've had to miss out on quite a lot. I've had to just turn up to things and look like a bit of an idiot and not eat, or yeah, just not eat, or turn up with my milk. But do you know what? I'm sure it'll be worth it. And I can't wait for the weeks to go by, because right now I feel no different. I've had this operation, but I'm still the same.